Hey everybody. My name is Gregorio. I'm with the Playlist. You just saw one of the most incredible movies of the last decade. And I'm so excited tonight to moderate a Q&A with the director of this incredible film, Mr. Luca Guadagnino. He just won the New York Film Critics Best Actor Award. Timothée Chalamet. In Luca's case, also congratulations, also won the Gotham Awards for Best Film of the Year on Monday. This is an amazing movie. Before we start, I'm curious, how many people have already seen the film? This is their second. Wow. I think that's called word of mouth. Awesome. So guys, and since so many of you have already seen the film, I want to sort of like start on a different note. Can we talk about Mafalda? Yes. Because if any of you are on social media, people are obsessed with Mafalda. They want to know what she would have thought if she came into the room. And can you just tell us about the actress? She gives a great performance with almost no face screen time. It's like incredible.
I was scouting, and we were looking for the place in which Ellie and Oliver go through with the bikes on their way to the first kiss. And I was in this field, and then I see this lady biking, and I see this strange face, and she goes like this. She doesn't care about this bunch of filmmakers in the middle of the street with like viewfinders and stuff. And I see to my executive producer Stella, get her. And you see Stella run to her and grab her, say, please, can you stop for a moment? And she say, can you come and meet my director? I say, I can't. And she left. And then we made a sort of announcement in the newspaper of Crema that we were doing some auditions for smaller roles, and she showed up. And she got the role on spot. Like, not even, she didn't read. I mean, I saw her, like, it's yours. Oh. And that you can confirm me, she was perfection. Mm-hmm. She was so good. Like, you know the scene
she's
when...
the best part of the movie.
She's so good performer. When they quarrel, Elio and Mafalda, about him not wanting to eat at home, and the timing, she gets it. And she's so good that I cast her in Suspiria.
Oh, what? Can you tell us what she plays in Suspiria?
Like, she plays a witch.
Oh, wow. Okay, I can't wait to meet her now. Like I'm even more obsessed. Timothée, can you talk about you were, in case people don't know, you were attached to this before even Luca came on to direct. You've probably been attached to a bunch of movies and waited a long time. Was there ever a moment where you thought this isn't going to ever happen? This is just one of those things that happen in the business. What made you think this film was really going to go forward and actually go in front of cameras?
Well, I mean, like most actors get this fancy thing called escrow, which means they get the money for the movie before they even get out there. And I had no interest in doing that because I was just so enthusiastic about doing the movie. But I was in Italy before we ever knew this movie had the money to be done. I mean, I was there a month and a half early, and there was a call at a certain point I got that was like, look, this might not come together. And, you can go back if you want. And if the movie doesn't come together, just treat it as like a 3-week, Italian lesson, piano lesson, crash course in what it would be like to play Elio Perlman from Call Me By Your Name. But yeah, this was certainly the thing that it was like the dream project that would never come around because I was getting to work with really great directors on other projects, but it was always, not always, but it was often, as the brother or the son or the like asshole romantic interest or something. No, I was like salivating at this opportunity, and young actors don't get this kind of role that's complex and contradictory and the time to breathe in so many shots and a lot of time to play in space and the opportunity to work with Luca and Armie and James Ivory, like it's a dream come true.
And so I know that you guys didn't have that much rehearsal time beforehand. You were there like learning piano and stuff like that. But we did a Q&A before, and Armie is not here. It's his daughter's birthday, I believe. So, but he told a really funny story about how you guys did one rehearsral. And can you tell that? I don't know if you can tell it as...
Yes, I'm not going to be able to tell it as well as Armie for those that know this story. But so we hadn't really done any rehearsals for this movie. I'll try to condense it for those that have heard this story. And and we really hadn't done any rehearsals. We had done a couple table reads. We had kind of established the arc and the tone of the movie. And Lucas said, let's rehearse at the Villa one day. And he said, let's go rehearse in the backyard and bring your scripts. And Army and I were super enthusiastic. We hadn't read through anything yet. And we were like broing out. We were really excited. And so we brought our scripts to the backyard. And Lucas said, I don't know, let's, flip to page 71. Let's do whatever scene's on that page. We said, okay, great. What scene's going to be there? And I think the only description for the scene was Oliver and Elio make out. So, and we both kind of looked at each other. We're like, oh, okay, here we go. So we went right into it because we had yet to have the icebreaker. We had yet to have any sort of physical intimacy, let alone kissing. So we did, and Lucas stopped us and said, "No, that's not right at all. I want you guys to really make out and be passionate about it." So we kind of looked at each other and we went, "Okay," and we were going at it, and we were making out, and then we were making out, and we were making out, and we were really kind of getting into it, and it was kind of getting a little steamy, And then we looked up, and Luca was gone. He had totally disappeared. He had walked off into the distance. But it was good. It was the perfect icebreaker. It destroyed the ice. There was no ice left.
Luca, I want us to talk about the music in this movie because it's so great. And can you talk about how you got, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Sufjan Stevens to be involved and even to write 2 original songs, let alone 1?
Well, the novel is told from the perspective of Elio 20 years later. Is a sort of a first-person singular account of his emotional journey. And I didn't want to use that kind of device, but I wanted to have a voice that could, in a way, envelope the film. And I thought that the use of a voiceover was a little bit of a contrivance, but maybe music could have drive the emotional kind of power I wanted for the film. And Sufjan, like the voice of Sufjan is so pure, his lyrics are so complex and yet so immediate. And the music is so, again, enveloping. And I approached the guy. I said to him, would you collaborate with us on this? I even asked him to sing in the movie, like to be filmed. And he said no. But he said yes to a song. And then few months later, he gave us 2 songs instead of 1. And also he rearranged for piano Futile Devices.
And had he told you what his inspiration was? Had you said what you were even looking for?
Well, we talked a lot about the movie. He read the book. I gave him the script. We spoke about the tone. Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't know he was going to come with this great image of Gideon, for instance.
So had you planned that a original song would play over the last shot? Like, what was your?
No, we got the songs. I think a week before or a week into filming, we heard the songs. They were so stunning. And we were impressed. And then with my editor, we immediately understood that we wanted to use Visions of Gideon in the last shot. And it all went on in place very soon.
Just all fit in place like a puzzle.
Immediately, yeah.
I'm curious, can we talk about that last scene? Because it moves so many people. And I think one of the interesting things that you've mentioned about it before is that there was no cameraman on the other side. But can you talk about how you got to the place you needed to just as an actor for that scene?
I think trust and rhythm, trust for Luca that I'd be guided in the right direction, that it would make sense in the story of the film, and then also the rhythm and the gift of getting to shoot this film almost perfectly chronologically and almost rarely out of order, and that by the time we shot that scene, I think we were 3 days from the end of filming or 2 days or something, so there was the instant nostalgia that was already kicking in for the experience that was still happening. And that's almost how the scene plays out. There's a weird, love for time past and love lost and love that happened but didn't really happen the way maybe it should have or in the entirety that it should have.
No, it's incredible, especially the more you see the film. It's an incredible performance there. And lastly, before we take some audience questions, I just wanted to go back to the music. Love My Way by Psychedelic Furs. Was that just a song that you were a fan of?
I loved it.
Was that it?
Yeah, I grew up with Pretty in Pink, Heaven. I love that album. I love the Psychedelic Furs. I think that Oliver listened to the song and he feels liberated in that little moment. I wanted a hymn from the times. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. When you guys were dancing to it, did you actually know what that song? I'm sure it was.
Yeah, that song
quiet.
was cleared and already acquired for the movie on scripts phase. But we shot the scene without the music because you have to have
Right.
the clean sound.
That's another good classic Army story.
Yes.
You know, there's only a click track for that song. There was no music. And so it's like a tremendously awkward experience to be dancing to no music. And so that if I can do the Army meme live.
But Timothée loves to dance. He's great.
And that's the other thing. I love dancing. So I got to be like in the corner of that outdoor area, just kind of pointing and laughing the entire time.
We definitely want to take some questions from the audience. So, who's got a question? You, sir, right here.
Luca, you talked about how you did an audition either after and now hearing the story about Mafalda. Do you just base this on instinct, or did you look at Army's all of his films and Timothy's films and then decide?
I think the question is about how the process of casting and not having to do auditions and how I decide to cast people. I think it's the sum of things. Sometimes you know an actor like Army, the body of work is fantastic, and sometimes you trust your instincts and you know there is a preparation there, like in the case of Timothée. Sometimes the people that you have in front of you are the natural embodiment of the characters, like Wanda Capriolo, who plays Mafalda. But definitely it's a mixture of experience. And I don't know, maybe I will sound pompous, but it's about my interest in people. And if I'm invested and I want to spend time, why not? Why Armie Hammer should audition for a role? He's a great actor.
Other questions? You, sir, right there, I think.
Yeah, for the scenes where Army dances, like, did you tell him like how to dance, or is that just how he dances?
No, well, it's set in the 80s, in 1983, so the
We had an 80s dance coach come to the villa one day, and she came totally in costume. She had the socks that were up and the fluorescent leotard, and we had like a whole dance. And I think you arranged that, right?
Yeah. But in the same time, I think he also studied himself. There's a great scene in a great movie called Something Wild by Jonathan Demme, where Jeff Daniels dances at the reunion party. That's something that I had in my mind when we shot that scene. In fact, the shot of the feet of Oliver comes from exactly the same shot comes from that movie.
Other questions? I think there's someone right there in the center. It's a little hard to see. I think it's you. Yeah.
Hey. What can you do? Good. Give me your. I'm gonna be out. You give me your details.
You got a list of PAs for like if you ever shoot a movie in the U.S.
Phalanx of PAs. Yeah.
Other questions as well? Oh, right there. Can I help you?
So I'm sure both of you are aware that this movie is getting a lot of Oscar buzz, and so I'm wondering if you were to get nominated, who would you think?
Oh, the question was that if you won, who would you thank?
Well, that's a question too far in the future. We'll see.
We'll see.
Wait, what about her? She had her.
I think that acting is about being truthful and believable, and as you mentioned, Timothy, that you and Army barely had any rehearsals, so I'm wondering if you think that rehearsal periods and like acting in front of a mirror and the whole shebang hinders the sincerity that the film had, or just hinders the sincerity that all films need.
And I think that's a great question, and I'm sure there are a lot of actors in here, and I think it depends on the actor. And I struggle with that. It's a real tension. You know, I consider myself a theater guy, and I went to a theater high school in New York, and certainly on stage you want to know exactly, or not exactly, but you want to generally have blocked out what you're going to be doing. But on film, I know as an audience member what excites me the most are moments of spontaneity, or where things feel real or unplanned, or they just happened. But, you know, then there's that big, it's like almost like the divide in the debate of acting, where a lot of people are more classical and want more of a performance, and you see the actor in the drawing room or in the control room. But then Marlon Brando came along and he made everything real, so everybody had to be real now. And then Meryl Streep started working with a speech coach, so everybody started having to work with a speech coach. So when the bar's been like raised that high, or like Christian Bale in The Machinist, or these guys, or anybody that commits to a role fully like that, I find that, then you kind of have to match the realism or the believability, or audiences are going to go, well, we saw, for me, like a movie like James White, or like Good Time that just came out too, like these hyper realist movies. I find as an audience member that it makes it harder for me to go watch these more like performative or structured pieces.
You, sir?
What did you use to get to that place of being so like devastatingly in love with someone? And then was there a separate aspect of the like forbidden aspect? Have you ever experienced that, or like how do you like find both of those?
So, in case you couldn't hear, the question was, did you use something specific to get to that point of intimacy? I think basically is what you were asking. That's correct. And then also, I think that was just basically the main question. I missed the second part, but
If there was an
yeah.
Well, the forbiddenness, like the same way, the sense of forbidden. How do I answer this? Like, to answer the first part of the question, I think like to play any, to play any character of complexity, or to be playing these emotional beats and arcs, that's just the requisite as an actor, is to wear your heart on your sleeve to a certain extent, and unless you're playing somebody who's guarded or there's a certain character choice there. But that's almost the gift. I went to a drama high school from 13 to 17, and for better or worse now, like I wear my heart on my sleeve, even in life too. Like I've done some talk shows recently, I'm like a fucking nervous wreck up there, and then to the second part, like the forbidden aspect, I don't know, there is like a forbiddenness to this love, but I don't think it relates to, like, that's the beautiful thing about this movie, I don't think it relates to like sexuality or kind of themes we've seen before, but rather the forbiddenness is just like an awkwardness towards how to express your first love, and like you have that physical desire, but you don't know what that means, and particularly with Oliver / Armie Hammer, who's 6'5", you just want to crawl all over him, and like, and then this sounds like cliche or something, but it's also just being in the hands of Luca, who like just guided this ship perfectly, and was able to channel my natural naivete into some sort of like performance.
Want to try to get some people in the back. You up there, I think, ma'am?
Hi. Sorry, I'm very far back. I was just wondering, like when you watch the movie, it seems like very enchanting, almost surreal. I was just wondering, like what the production process was like in that sense. Like, did you feel like you were in a different world almost, and was it hard to like snap back into reality after filming something like this?
I think it's a question for both you guys. Like, Luca, how did you sort of get that sort of sense of cinema verite on set? Like, did you just let lots of scenes sort of go extend for a while? Like, how did you sort of handle that aspect?
I'm not sure I understood the question, but I try to answer. Well, I think that in this case, I wanted the movie to be the language of the movie to be as discreet and as invisible as possible. I just didn't want to go in the way of these characters. And the place was my place. I lived there. So it was easy for me. Not I don't live in that house. I live in that village.
I think we all were like, wow, that's a great summer home. That's really nice.
But you thought about buying the house, and everybody went, no, Luca.
Wishful thinking.
You, sir, right there.
I'm just curious. I've seen it a couple times. This is the first time I noticed that the scene by the war monument where Elio first tells his feelings, it's shot in one take. And did you go through multiple blockings of it? Did you have a lot of different? Did you have to do that a number of times to get just the way?
Well, it's a good question because it's something that that is like 5 to 6 pages of script, and it's a very important scene, of course, and it's a moment in which Elio is open up. Actually, Elio and Oliver are open up to one another, and yet I was struggling with the concept of putting accents in the places where you feel maybe by the textbook of narrative to put it, like a close-up or reaction shot or stuff like that. And I think Army saw that I was a bit in a difficult space with the scene at the very beginning of the morning. So he said to me, "Why don't you do it in one shot?" That was his idea. And I said, why not? And we started to block, and you block by piece. You add elements. So they are coming from some place. He wants to buy cigarettes. He waits for the guy coming back from the cigarette place. They have to fill the void of not being able to speak or die, as the mother says. So they go to the monument and they start to have small talk about it. But in a way, the monument is so meaningful because it's about youth who died. And maybe that triggers Elio instinct to say the things. And then Oliver goes instinctively on the opposite side because he's in a way terrified by the proximity, but he want to hear that. But the monument is in the middle. So we are going to the monument and then we go back and then they meet again. And all this dance around this square, it took a few hours to do it, like very patiently. And then we realized that we didn't have enough truck to shoot. So we had to wait for the trucks to come back from Milan. So we wait a couple of hours, the truck arrived, and we shot in, I think, 3 takes. It was very, 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 very fast.
That's nerve-wracking as an actor, though, in one shot, because the better it's going, the longer it gets, a little voice in the back of your head that's going, "Oh man, don't fuck this up."
You, sir, right there, I think, or ma'am? Oh, miss, I'm sorry, yes. Or sir? Sir, apologies. It's so dark here, we're like...
So I've seen it twice now, and for the property that you shot out mostly, it seems so true to the book. Was that all one location, or was it multiple, or was it built on a stage?
The house?
Yeah.
No, that's a real house. It's a property from the 17th century, and we dressed the house. We made it alive. We made it 1980s. We made it that family house. We built the house. No, we created the atmosphere of the house, and then we created the garden. The garden, there was no garden. Like, it was really like abandoned. We made the orchard. We made the trough where they swim. Yeah.
You, sir, question?
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to thank you for making this film. A film that celebrates unconditional love without prejudice and without shame is a wonderful thing, and we need more of that. So thank you for that. My question is about sort of the details in the film that aren't in the book. There's a scene right after the Jews of Discretion moment. The next scene, you sort of birth the Star of David out of your mouth, and when you're swimming, and there's that moment when he's dreaming in Rome, where the dream is sort of like a reverse negative or something. How did that come out of did it come out of a collaborative process, or how did that come about?
I definitely think they came out of a collaborative process. You know, like, I think when you do a movie, you have to leave the door open to reality, which means that everything that happens, you have to understand why it is happening and be part of it. I think script, book is a tool, and then you have to make it alive. So we were for instance, we were supposed to shoot in a river, which has low water, but because it was raining for like really all the month of the shoot, the river became impracticable. It was huge, it was really fierce and dangerous, so we had to move into the lake, and that's how we ended up having Elio coming off the water from the lake. And then you were playing with the necklace, and I don't remember if you had this idea or I had this idea, but we had this idea that, boom, the thing comes off of his mouth, and we realized that he really is looking for a brotherhood and a strong bond, like a really, really strong bond with this boy.
That was my idea.
Good. Good.
And wait. No, I only say that because I remember, because we came out of the water and they say cut, and I was like still floating, and Lucas said, "The thing with the ding in the mouth, genius."
Good.
Good.
Let's just take a couple more questions. Way in the back up there, I'm sorry, you just threw your hand up.
Thank you. Okay, this may be a very small, it is a very small detail, but I'm curious. 3 scenes that I saw, there was a fly on this.
Well, the Lombardia, which is the region where we shot this film, is a flat land, and it's mostly a place where there is a lot of cattle, and there is a lot of milk and cheese and shit and flies. So it's accurate.
You?
Where the flies were there, and then the fly at the end in the winter. It's very telling, because in these old houses, the insects try to find rescue in the winter from the cold, otherwise they die. And I like the idea that this is the last fly of the summer.
By the way, did you shoot that during the initial production, or did you come back later?
No, we shot in the same production period of time.
Oh.
We were lucky. There is a fantastic visual effect work, because when you see him and then there is the window with the falling of the snow, originally that was like a blooming spring. We replaced that.
Oh. And I was supposed to be
that is a
walking-
good thing about VFX.
Yes.
And I was supposed to be walking through the winter shots, so I went to college in the fall for a semester, and I thought, okay, I have that trip to Italy, in the winter, I'll have that trip booked. And then they cut it, so my winter plans were like totally.
we had the winter.
I think you had a question.
By the way, I love the characters in it. Is there a trilogy, like in the sense of Before Sunrise?
Oh, is there plan for? I think I've heard you talk about this a little bit. Is there plan for sequels to revisit 10 years down the road the character? Because the book, I think, continues their story a little bit.
I revert the question. You want to see these people again? Yeah. Then yes.
There we go. We got one more question. You right there in the aisle.
Right here. Yeah. Simply thank you. I think this is an instant classic. And for me, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I wish I had a movie like this. Just be able to sort of see myself. The speech by the father alone is amazing. So simply thank you.
Thank you.
Putting your heart into
Well, I think that's a wonderful way to end. Please thank Timothée and Luca, and please spread the word about Call Me By Your Name.